Congresswoman Maxine Waters ramping up her rhetoric against President Trump. The California Democrats started calling for the president's impeachment shortly after the January inauguration. Watch.
Republicans should step up to the plate and confront the fact that this president appears to be unstable. When is the black community going to say, yeah, impeach him? It's time to go after him. I don't hear you.
I've said over and over again, I think he's the most deplorable person I've ever met in my life.
By this time, some say that Waters may have taken it too far. Listen to what she said at a recent New York gala.
I am sitting here listening, watching, absorbing, thinking about Ali, even though I never met him. And with this kind of inspiration, I will go and take Trump out tonight.
So there's that. Ben Shapiro, editor-in-chief at dailywire.com, and Richard Fowler, nationally syndicated radio talk show host and a Fox News contributor. Richard, I'm just watching this, and it isn't really that surprising. I mean, when you look at all of the things that Maxine Waters has said since the inauguration. But I can't help but wonder if, a previous president, President Obama or, President Clinton, if someone had stood up and said that about them, don't you think the outrage on the other side would have been uncontainable?
And I think the outrage was uncontainable when Ted Nugent threatened to shoot the president. There was outrage on the left, and it was uncontainable. So, and here's the thing.
He's not a congresswoman, though.
No, I mean, I get that, and I don't think that she was threatening to kill the president in this particular soundbite. I think that some from the right have sort of made this ideal that she's trying to threaten to kill him, and I don't think that's what she's saying here. I think she's saying, I'll go take him out, just like somebody like the president would say, I'm going to go take out Hillary Clinton and beat her in the next election, right? It's a very tongue-in-cheek saying. I mean, she's been in Congress since 1991. Nobody believes that she's going to go to the White House and try to physically harm the president in any way.
All right, I got you. So you're saying that the rhetoric has devolved so dramatically on all sides that this is just sort of the way we talk now. Ben, what do you think?
I think there's some truth to that. I think this is a pretty outstanding example of just how far the rhetoric has devolved. I mean, Maxine Waters has been saying pretty inflammatory things her entire career. There's a woman who once said that the LA riots were really an LA uprising. She's used charged language for 20-odd years. She's one of the most corrupt members of Congress. I don't think anyone's particularly surprised by this, but the shouting and cheering for the idea that I'm going to take him out tonight, it's the word tonight that really adds that extra flavor there. It's not just I'm going to take him out in 2018 or 2020. It's we're going to take him out tonight that I think everyone's upset about, and sort of rightfully so.
All right, let me ask you. Go ahead, real quick, Richard.
One thing I want to say. I mean, is the president's rhetoric is almost just as bad. He said he could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and still be elected president of the United States, right? So his rhetoric is just as bad. So I mean, I think to sit here and to criticize Congresswoman Waters, we should also be criticizing the president for using the same type of rhetoric.
Well, we said, is that where we are? And has the conversation devolved to such an extent that we just sort of take this as no big deal? Speaking of rhetoric, let's take a look at this cartoon that was put out in the Daily Californian, which sounds like a Sunday newspaper, but that's what they published. It's Alan Dershowitz with his head sort of pushed through, some sort of wall, and the images that are back there depict stomping on the Palestinian flag and an Israeli soldier shooting an unarmed person. And let's also put up what Alan Dershowitz showed us in terms of what was put up at the university on the bulletin board, where there was a swastika drawn over his face. Ben?
I mean, it's pretty shockingly anti-Semitic stuff. This particular cartoon is straight from the pages of Der Stürmer, appearing in the Berkeley newspaper. The suggestion that Alan Dershowitz is a tool of the Israelis, and not only a tool of the Israelis are engaged in Nazi-esque occupation in which they're killing innocent children for no reason at all. And it's pretty obvious, anti-Zionism equaling anti-Semitism in this particular case.
Let's put up a quote from an interview that you guys did at thedailywire.com with Alan Dershowitz, and he points out, he says, irony is too kind a word. It's hypocrisy. And remember, this is a reaction to a speech in which I said that I support a Palestinian state. And he goes on to say, I support the end of the occupation. I'm against Israeli policies on settlements. And Richard, it just raises the question of whether or not there's some similarities between, sort of the hard progressive left and this neo-Nazi hard right.
Listen, I've said all along, I think that there's racism on both sides of the aisle. I don't care how you split the cookie. I think there's racism in the Democratic Party. I think there's racism in the Republican Party. I think there's homophobia in the Democratic Party. I think there's homophobia in the Republican Party. I don't think homophobia, racism, xenophobia, sexism, I don't think they know party affiliation. I think there's hate in people's hearts, and there's nothing you can do about it. And I don't think it hides under one particular political cloak or another, period.
Ben?
I mean, I think that there's some truth to that. The question is, how close is that hate to the heart of a particular movement? And when you're talking about the anti-Zionism, anti-Semitism of some parts of the left, that seems a lot closer to the heart of the Democratic Party than to the heart of the Republican Party.
We gotta go. I'm getting counted down, you guys. But that was a really cheery segment, so thanks a lot. Both sides are horrible.